Looking for the latest comic book to add to your collection? How about the last card for that Magic the Gathering Commander deck? Well, the comic book stores got you covered. Shop online at comicbookstore.tcgplayerpro.com or come in person at 30 North Main Street, Glassboro, New Jersey. Pizza people, welcome back. Hollywood Pizza here, and we've got quite the flaming hot deck for you today. We're going to be playing some Mono Black Midrange. If you haven't already seen this deck on the ladder, then you are pretty lucky or hiding under a rock. So essentially, this is a grind them out mid-range deck with removal spells and some value creatures to boot. On top of that, it's actually just a very, very controlling list if that's the way that you want to go, specifically after sideboard. So let's go ahead and go over the deck here. So for 1-drops, we've got 8 of them with the 4 cut downs and the 4 Evolved Sleeper. So essentially the cut down is just a very mana efficient removal spell, killing most cards that are essentially like 3 mana or less. Can't really kill 3/3s like the Trespassers, but that's okay. Essentially wiping out everything else is just fine, and at 1 mana instant, can't really ask for anything else. We also have 4 Evolved Sleeper here, just a fantastic threat in this deck. It comes down early, it comes down later, and then you can still sink some mana into it. No matter what, it's always going to be, at least for an additional 3 mana outside the 1 black that you're playing it for. Essentially, it can turn into a 2/2 or a 3/3 with Death Touch, so it's always going to be good. And then for 2 black and a colorless, you can essentially pump it up with a +1/+1 counter, draw a card, and lose a life. So overall, just a phenomenal card. And like I said, just good early and good later. We have Infernal Grasp, which is a colorless and a black for an instant. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. Just a great overall removal spell for anything that cut down can't kill, considering cut down can only kill things with total power toughness 5 or less. So overall, the Infernal Grasp kind of helps round out our targeted removal there. We do have a couple other spells that we'll get to, but that has some other utilities here in a moment. So our other 2-drops here, we have 4 Tenacious Underdogs, colorless and a black for a 3/2 Human Warrior. You can cast this card from your graveyard using its Blitz as well, which it blitzes in. For 2 black, 2 colorless, you pay 2 life. If you don't know about Blitz, at the end of the turn, you have to sacrifice it. And then whenever that creature card dies, goes to the graveyard, you essentially draw a card, which is really, really nice in this deck. So Tenacious Underdog, just great early, great later. Really, really awesome threat. We have 3 Meathook Massacres, which is just one of the best board wipes in the format and that we've seen here in the last couple years. X, double black. When it enters, each creature gets -X until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you get to gain a life. So overall, it can help you kind of help turn the corner against certain decks, and it kind of scales as the game goes on and you're playing your lands to the point where you can pretty much kill anything you want and gain some life on top of that. Another thing about Meathook is that you can actually end the game sometimes by just having some of your creatures die if your opponent is at low enough life. 4 Graveyard Trespassers here. Just one of the best 3-drops, one of the best creatures in the format. 2 colorless and a black for a 3/3. It has Ward. Your opponent has to discard a card in order to be able to target it here. And then whenever this card enters the battlefield or attacks, you get to exile a card from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled this way, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. And when it flips over, it turns into a 4/4, and you get to use the ability an additional time, so it'd be 2 cards. And then they'd still lose the life, and you'd gain the life if they're creatures. So really, really solid card overall. I love playing this on turn 3. I love playing it later in the game. Having something main deck that gets rid of the graveyard is also phenomenal. So just a really A+ card overall so far, ever since it's been printed. 2 Liliana the Veil, one of the newest additions, but it's also a reprint here coming back into Standard, one of my favorite cards. Colorless, double black, comes in with 3 loyalty, +1, each player discards. -2, target player sacks a creature, and -6, separate all permanents that target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. So overall, just a nice, really great grindy card. It's really good against opposing graveyard trespassers, just because we don't have to spend 2 cards to kill it. We just downtick on the Liliana. And then if the Liliana sticks, you can keep upticking and making sure that you're grinding the cards out of your opponent's hand. This card is just phenomenal against control and really good in just mid-range strategies overall. We have 2 Soul Transfers, which I was talking about rounding out our removal here, essentially our targeted removal. This can exile a creature or planeswalker, so essentially having that extra exile effect is really, really good. 2 black and a colorless, so 3 mana is not too bad. You get to return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can choose one, or if you have an artifact and an enchantment, which you can end up having with the Celestis, and essentially like a Meathook. You can end up doing both sides of this by getting a creature back to your hand and exiling a card in play. So overall, Soul Transfer, just a really, really great card. Been actually like really impressed with it, considering it's kind of just like a hero's downfall that exiles, but then also has some utility by getting something back later. So kind of has a little bit more of like that Kolaghan's Command feel to it as well. I've been very, very impressed with this card. One of Celestis is just pretty good here. It helps get to our mana on time, making sure that we're able to cast multiple spells a turn, and on top of that, it helps ramp to one of our key spells in the deck. 3 colorless, if it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as this card comes in. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color. 3 tap. If it's night, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. You can only activate as a sorcery, and then whenever it becomes day or night, whenever it flips over, you gain a life, and then you can choose to draw a card and discard a card. So overall, having some card selection on top of life gain and mana ramp is just a great solid package, and just the 3 mana for Celestis. We also have 2 Shield Dread, the Apocalypse, one of the newest cards as well from Dominaria. 2 colorless, 2 black for a 4/5 with Death Touch, Phyrexian Praetor. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2. So really phenomenal card overall. It pairs really well with our Invoke Despair as well. On top of that, if Shield Dread just sits out on the battlefield, essentially it's just a win con without you really having to do much. In my opinion, if you're attacking with this card, you're probably winning the game. We have 2 Sorin, the Mirthless, 2 colors, 2 black for loyalty, +1. Look at the top card of your library. You can put it into your hand. If you do, you lose life equal to its mana cost. You reveal it. -2, create a 2/3 black vampire creature token with flying and lifelink. And then -7, it deals 13 damage to any one target, and you gain 13. Just a really great value engine overall. You're able to make some threats on the battlefield. The ultimate ends the game, and in between, you're just drawing a lot of cards. If you hit lands, it's extra special because you don't lose any life and you churn through your deck even faster. 4 Invoke Despair, one of the best cards in the deck. Quadruple black and a colorless for a sorcery. Target opponent sacks a creature. If they can't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. Then you repeat this process for an enchantment and a planeswalker, so you can either 3-for-1 your opponent, or make your opponent lose a lot of life and draw some cards on top of that, and then maybe you'll gain some extra life from the Shield Dread if you have it down when you do this. For special lands, we actually don't really have many in the deck, just 1 of Takenuma and 24 Swamps. Pretty simple. We're also playing in the sideboard here. We have 2 Duress, 3 Pilfer, kind of help against any control matchup. The Duresses can help a little bit against the mid-range, considering Fable and a lot of non-creatures are indexed these days. We have 2 March of Wretched Sorrow, just a fantastic card against anything that's aggressive. It helps you gain life and can scale as the game keeps going on, or if you need to early, you can just exile some cards out of your hand to get rid of problematic problematic creature or planeswalker. 3 Reckoner Bankbuster can kind of help grind the game out. It comes in with 3 charge counters. You pay 2, tap it, remove a charge counter from it to draw a card, and then later on, after you remove all the counters, you get a 1/1 pilot that can crew this, and you also get a treasure token, so that's pretty good. Essentially just a really, really great card after sideboard if you want to cut some dead things like cut downs against specific matchups. This card is just really grindy and allows for the game to kind of just smooth out for you. 2 Unlicensors to kind of help against anything that's a graveyard strategy. On top of that, it's just not a bad card, as it can potentially just keep growing as the game progresses. It's just like its own Tarmogoyf that hates out the graveyard, so just a great card overall. An extra Liliana the Veil for control or any mid-range grindy matchups. 1 of Path of Peril to help destroy anything that's going to be quick, low to the ground like a red deck wins, or maybe even like a mono white aggro. And 1 of Extra Soul Transfer to kind of additionally help against any type of creature or planeswalker strategy, or like I was saying, essentially it helps you grind the game out to the point where you're able to just like start out valuing your opponent. So overall, I think just having that extra soul transfer is really, really good. So this deck list essentially was actually played by another streamer named Jub77. That's JUB77. You can find information to their content down below in the description, but they ended up taking this list to number 16 Mythic. The only adjustment that we made was we cut 1 Pilfer in the sideboard for the 3rd Liliana. I just felt like Liliana is such a powerful card in this format that you gotta have more than just 2. It really helps in the sideboard more than like Pilfer might. Pilfer can be hit or miss sometimes, but it is really good against the control matchups, so it's definitely necessary. But definitely find some links in the description to their content and the deck list down below. And let's go ahead and jump into some games. Playing some Mono Black Midrange here. See what we can do Our first game. Gonna be on the play. I got a pretty decent hand here. 4 lands, couple underdogs. Soren's not bad at the top end. We're really looking for some removal spells, but I don't mind coming in with the beatdown here with a couple 2-drops. Okay, opponent with a tap land, so they could be playing the Jund Reanimator deck that's been running around a bit with the Tina Industries. Okay, tap land and a sleeper. Interesting. We get Celestis. So Celestis isn't really ramping us into anything too crazy. I think we just come in. And I don't mind just playing the other underdog. Staying aggressive here if our opponent wants to spend their whole turn. Making the sleeper a 3/3. Not really too worried about it. We can still trade anyways with the underdogs. Okay, Fable. So now they just have a 2/2 and a 1/1. We draw a land. Soren's not a crazy play, but it's still really good right now. We could swing out. But then we don't have anything to protect Soren, so we'd probably have to uptick it. And even if we did, our opponent could spend their whole turn killing the Soren. Could potentially just send one underdog in. I think it's okay to come in with both. Let's stay aggressive here. Okay, and they're just making the trade anyways, so I don't mind just playing the Soren here. And upticking. Go ahead and get a land out of the way off the top of our deck. They're getting some redraws from the Fabled Mirror Breaker here. All that we really have right now is a Celestis and an underdog, really, but if Soren can stay around, then we can at least have an extra flow of cards going. Okay, Liliana the Veil. If they just uptake, I'm not really too worried about it. Okay, yeah, sacrifice. Still not too crazy. Okay, we just hit another underdog. So we could draw off of the Soren or potentially maybe even make a token. We really want to kill that Liliana, but we can't because we don't have enough mana. Could just make a token. Maybe get a couple turns to try to draw into an answer. I think we're better off just drawing now. Yeah, we can reveal that. That's not too bad. Play the underdog and have the grasp up. Could also pay the life for the underdog out of the graveyard and threaten the Liliana. And we'll get a redraw. I kind of like that a little bit more. Next turn we can also just play an underdog and blitz or potentially use the grasp. So I think putting pressure on their Planeswalker feels pretty good. If it just dies, it just dies. Okay. Soren's at 6 loyalty, so it can take a hit from the sleeper. It's still going to take up a lot of their turn. Okay, they have a reflection now. Meat Hook also doesn't feel bad here. Okay. Battlefield at random. So we don't have an exile effect. We can Meat Hook for 4, wipe the board. Then they could potentially get something here. Could also grasp this. And then depending on what they play, we can Meat Hook. Uptick on the Soren. I think I kind of like that a little bit more. If they put a counter on everything, though, then it definitely foils our plan. Let's uptick here. Just hit a land, that's fine. Not losing any life over it. I think we do have to do it like this. Kill both of their cards, gain a couple life. Grasp the AO. They'll potentially just choose putting cards into play here. Soren could die if they end up with a lot of creatures. But okay, they just get a Wandering Emperor. Definitely a bit frightening. Soren's going to take some damage here, and if they have their own underdog or another creature with haste, Soren could potentially be dead here. And then all we really have are just some underdogs. So I still like how he went with the meat hook. Okay. So they actually chose not to uptick on the samurai. So we still have an extra draw here. Sarah Paragon's pretty good. Potentially playing Liliana or the Sleeper. Yep, Sleeper. So we're looking for our other meat hook here at this point. Okay, Soren. Let's get a redraw. We get Shieldred. We'll go down to 13. We can play Shieldred and Underdog. That's if we want to reveal it. We're taking 4 in the air, though. We'd be going down to 9. We don't have any way to pressure this Wandering Emperor. I think that's fine. I think I'll take the risk here. We'll play it. And play the underdog. Celestis and my lands are kind of just a little bit awkward, but we can still make it work. And they're going to uptick on this. They have a land. They would have potentially meat hooked for the board, but I think they just want to keep that Paragon. Okay, they just have an Infernal Grasp. So they'll go down to 9. No lifelink right now. If we block the Sleeper, they can still pump it up. And we are going to lose the Soren. This has first strike right now. If we block here, they tap out, go down to 8. They just have this creature. We don't really have a good block there either. I think we just block here. And then take the 3. Yep, just going to pump it. Up to a 4/4. We can get back 2 underdogs. Let's see here. So we're at 10, though. We have to make some blocks somewhere. We can Soren. Make a token. Underdog. Attack our opponent's life, but then essentially we'd end up being at 8. Can block one of these, but if they have a removal spell, we're kind of just dead here. If we play Sword and uptick, essentially be looking for like a soul transfer to kind of just not lose any life. Cut down isn't going to do it anymore. Can't cast Invoke Despair. in the same turn. Get Sorin. Still think it's just Sorin down tick. They have a removal spell. Either way, we're just dead. Gonna uptick, make it 5. And let's just attack our opponent's life total here. They have a removal spell, they probably just take it. I'm gonna get a draw card, but may end up just being ineffective here. Trespasser's pretty good. But yep, they just have a Liliana. Can make a sack a creature off of the Paragon, so bit of a rough first game. Opponent had a lot of value once they got the Paragon on the battlefield. It's really hard to deal with that card. Kind of looks like playing a little bit of the same strategy here. I definitely like the other soul transfer. Sorin was a bit awkward, so was the Celestis. Meathook was pretty good. Cut down looks like it gets worse later, so I don't think that we want all 4. I like the Bank Busters. It's kind of like some early plays. Underdog isn't necessarily that great either. I think we can cut another cut down. Bring in the Pilfers. March is pretty good. But I don't think... Just costs quite a bit of mana. Just didn't really see anything worth cutting down. Maybe we do like the marches more. Can also maybe cut a sleeper, play a march. Or even the underdog. Underdog was kind of a little bit underwhelming. It almost got the job done, but once we got to the mid-game... Alright, let's try an extra removal spell. Let's try it like this. I don't know if they're still playing like the Jund Reanimator type strategy, but... Okay. Gonna be on the play. Yeah, pretty keepable hand. Meathook gets a bit better later. We have March to potentially kill an early sleeper from the opponent. And we can also kind of just kill anything else too on top of that, depending on how much mana we have and if we want to exile one of our cards in our hand. And they actually don't do anything here, so we're just going to come in for 2 damage and pass the turn back. Okay, they got 2 mana here. See if they have a 2-drop. They just have their own sleeper. And we can kill that with our march. I think that that's going to end up being the better play here. Let's come in for damage. See if our opponent wants to bite on it. They probably don't. They would lose in combat anyways to us making it a 3-3. And we'll pass a turn and then just march it. Okay, they actually didn't do it. So pretty surprised there. Just going to try to take the damage. Yep. And I think we just do this for 2. No reason not to. I'll probably kill our sleeper, but yeah, they have their own removal spell here. We'll just get to gain 2 life. Play a Shield Red. Draw an extra land. So Shield Red's not looking terrible right now. We might even be able to get an attack in with it here pretty soon. 2 me hooks, a bit awkward. Okay, they just have an Infernal Grasp with a gun onto 12. Still just 2 mana. We draw Sorin. I think we can make a token here. Pass the turn back. We'll get a threat. Potentially get some card advantage going on the following turn. Opponent did hit their 3rd land here, and they have a Fable. We hit a Sleeper. Let's uptick on the Sorin. Revealing a land. Play that. Play the Sleeper. Let's go ahead and just go all the way on it as well. While our opponent's tapped out. That way we don't have to worry about playing around anything. If they want to kill it, a cut down's not going to do it. Next turn we could potentially draw some cards off of it as well. If they kill it, they attack the Sorin. They essentially can't kill it unless they have a boost spell. Could have a Wandering Emperor to finish off our Sorin, but then they essentially would be tapped out. They end up playing a tap land, though. Definitely an interesting deck. The opponent can't really catch up to the value with the way that we were able to get a pretty quick start there, and they also missed out on some land drops. Could potentially see maybe some Lilianas. Pilfer gets a little bit worse here on the draw. Duress seems okay, especially if we can get a Fable. I kind of like the other March. Maybe the March and the Liliana. That way we just make sure that we have removal spells for everything. Duress seems okay. Got a meat hook for it. I feel like our meat hook was going to be pretty good there. Especially if we just end up getting to the later game. I think we're a little bit more controlling in this matchup. They're a little bit more beat down. Yep, we can definitely keep this hand. Just lots of removal, looking for a threat here to help close the game out. And we drew both of our cut downs, so we can loosely use those a bit. Okay, Graveyard Trespasser feels pretty good. We'll have something to play on turn 3. And we can kill this token, knowing that we just have 3 other removal spells plus a board wipe. And we'll play the Graveyard Trespasser. Not going to remove any cards. And we'll pass it back. And they actually didn't discard anything to Fable, so they just have potentially just some straight gas here. Five cards in hand, 4 mana. If they want to use Wandering Emperor, they essentially have to discard a card. Okay, do they just have a removal spell now? Looks like they do. Okay, that's fine. Can't do anything about that. Could potentially even use the Soul Transfer to get it back. Okay, Invoke Despair. So now we're looking to hit another land next turn. You have 3 cards. We want to cut down on the Fable. Could use the rest of our turn to get back this Graveyard Trespasser. We have the Invoke Despair for the Wandering Emperor either way. Invoke can also hit the Fable. But we're really looking to hit a land for that. I think I'm okay just passing the turn back and holding up both removal spells. Okay, they just have AO, that's fine. I think we just cut this down in response. Can also just exile this. And we just end up hitting the land anyway, so let's exile this card. That way they don't get the death trigger. Play our land, hold up the grasp. And we also have the Invoke Despair next turn. Okay, just another AO. Could shoot it down now. I think that's fine. If they get a couple permanents into play, we have the Me Hook to get rid of them, and then the Invoke Despair on top of that. If they just get a Wandering Emperor, then Invoke's even better. Okay, just a Sarah Paragon. Yep, I'll go ahead and Invoke here. Get a couple redraws. Wretch is pretty good. And Evolve Sleeper. So they could have a cut down here for the Sleeper, which would be unfortunate. So we're definitely looking for some more threats. Okay, Tainted Adversary. And they get a couple of tokens, and that's a 3/4. We have Bank Buster and Meat Hook. Can also Wretched on the Adversary. Or we just Meat Hook. Wipe their whole battlefield. Don't really care too much about the Decayed Zombies. Costs 3 mana to do this. Then we can use the other 3 to level up even more, make it a 4/4. We can take some damage if they play more things on the battlefield. Then our Me Hook gets even better. Let's just do this now. Yep. No cut down. Do I want to Bank Buster? Hold up March. I can also put the counter here. But then we can't... Still won't be able to Me Hook for 4, which is what we really want to do. Yeah, I think we Bank Buster here because it's a better use of our mana. If we need to use the Wretched, we can. The March. Alright, they're just going to come in. Okay, going to come in with everybody. That's fine. Just going to block a 2/2 here. Take 5, go down to 13. They lose their other zombie. 2 cards left. And they play a Wedding Announcement. So the Me Hook's looking pretty decent still. They get the draw card. Still can't activate the Bank Buster. We don't have the mana. Okay, we get back to our turn here. So we can Wretched the Adversary. I think that's okay. We have 7 mana, so that costs 5. And we can Bank Buster. Let's come in for damage first. So it looks like they're going to take it. I'd rather do this before they can untap. And we'll pass a turn back. Still can't use the Sleeper, but I think having the option to use a Bank Buster is a lot better. Get a redraw there, take down on the counters, get closer to getting a treasure and a token. Though the token could end up dying to our Me Hook. I think that's okay. So we're hitting quite a bit of lands here. I think it's okay to redraw with this now. We'll go down to 16. See if we can hit something of use here. Meat Hook's still good to have in our pocket. Okay, Shield Dread, really good draw. Let's go and attack for 4. Looks like we're getting to go to combat, so they're potentially just going to chump block here. 4 or greater. Okay, that blanks it. So they're going to go to blockers. Opponent wondering what we did. We essentially leveled it down so that way we can blank the removal spell, considering it's 4 or greater. So I'm actually pretty happy that we did not put another counter on it earlier. Opponent's actually just going to take the damage. We're completely okay with that. And I think it's okay to play this Shieldred. They only have 1 card in hand. So, yep, we're going to get to drain them for 2 damage here. And if they don't have any removal spells, I mean, we're pretty ahead on card advantage. We have the meat hook to essentially wipe the board if they get some more tokens off this wedding announcement. Okay, so they will get a creature back to their hand, which will probably be the Sarah Paragon. Okay, and then they'll tap out, so that'll be their whole turn. We can wipe the battlefield. Can't draw off the Bank Buster. That does flip over. So if we did want to wipe the battlefield, we now lose our Shieldred. We hit Invoke Despair. Okay, so we attack with both. They're making trades. We want to get 2 damage off the Shieldred. They're going to sack a token and the wedding announcement when it gets back to their turn. They can cast Commando. So we have 9 mana. It costs 6. To meat hook for 4. We can't invoke. And meat hook, I still think we invoke. They're going to go down to 6 here. And they get rid of the wedding announcement. We draw an underdog. We gain a couple more life. We can uptick, make this a 4/4 again. And attack with both. Can also play Tenacious Underdog and swing out. Put them in a pretty awkward situation. I think I like that. Let's go and just swing out. We can gain some life if Underdog dies. They'll chump block the Shieldred, maybe. We're going to gain 2 life from the Underdog dying. Maybe they double block. I mean, we just kill both of their cards either way if they double block the 3/3. If they take 4, then they're just dead on their draw. And we still have meat hook here to kind of wipe the board if we need to. Because they can make a lot of zombies pretty soon. Once it goes back to their turn. They're definitely thinking about how they're going to have to block here. We get a redraw off the Underdog as well. And they're going to just block with the Missionary. Sure, that's fine. So they essentially are just dead on... Okay, I was about to say they're dead on upkeep here, but I forgot that this has lifelink there. So we have the Trespasser. It is daytime. They go down to 2. They get to play one of those cards out of the graveyard, and they have 1 card in hand. We have Trespasser, which eats a card, deals a point of damage. So we're looking to draw another Trespasser, anything like that, that kind of just Drains a bit. Okay, so they're going to get AO back to their hand. Play land, play AO. Yep. Play land, play AO. Can't really attack us. Not really a good idea. We get a sleeper. We gain some life. So it costs 7 to kill this, but we don't really want to do that. We just pass it back because they can't, essentially can't gain any life here. I mean, we can play Trespasser. Yeah, we can essentially play Trespasser. Eat their Tainted Adversary. Play Sleeper as a 1/1. And Meat Hook for 1. And take the match down. It's a pretty grindy matchup. Opponent's deck was definitely full of a lot of value, but we actually ended up getting there in games 2 and 3. I think first game they just had really good start. Grinding out some games here with Mono Black Midrange. See what we're up against this matchup. We're going to be on the draw this time. We have quite a bit of lands. We do have ways to use those lands in the sleeper. We even have Attack Enuma on the draw. Could mulligan for something better, though. Considering all we really have is cut down and sleeper, kind of investing a lot in some early plays here. If we mulligan, though, we could put ourselves in a situation where maybe we have to go down to 5. I think I'm going to keep it. We're on the draw. There's a chance we could hit something that'll be useful here. Still think we run out the sleeper. Opponent's on the mulligan. So theoretically, we can even look at our hand like we mulliganed, but still not even really that bad. Attack Enuma could end up being some value here for us. Okay, opponent down to 5. And we draw a land. Let's go and just play the sleeper. Now, cut down doesn't really look like it's going to be the best in this matchup. Another sleeper. It's coming for some damage. Opponent definitely has a removal spell here. Could be a cut down. Okay, impulse. Potentially just digging for some lands. We've all definitely been there post-mulligan. Let's play another sleeper. We got to level both of these up next turn. We still have the cut down if our opponent plays a threat. Okay, Liliana. Probably just down tick here. Yep, we'll get rid of one of these sleepers. Okay, we have a cut down and an Invoke Despair. I think we still uptick here. Swing at the Liliana. They have 3 cards left. Most of our cards are lands, though. Takenuma is going to be good to get. At least we know of our Evolved Sleeper back. And it looks like that might end up being the play here. I'm going to try to sneak in for another point of damage. Draw a card here. Okay, that does resolve. Opponent has Impulse. 2 cards plus the Impulse here be 3. Our hand's looking okay against most threats that they would play. And let's see. If we play the other sleeper, I still think it's okay. It protects us against the Liliana if they have another. It can't Meat Hook for 4. Okay, just a cut down. Still have 3 cards if they have a land. Oh, and they still have the Liliana here. So we're going to have to use this Invoke Despair to draw some cards and deal with this Liliana. Okay, we draw our own. That's going to be useful later. Let's go and make them sacrifice. And we draw Shieldred, which is pretty nice here. So we have Liliana next turn. Okay, let's play another one. But our opponent's actually just going to concede here, which is pretty surprising. I guess they felt like they were kind of just so behind. Pretty surprised about that concession, but we'll definitely take it here. Bring in these Pilfers, cut the Celestis. Can also cut some of the actual cut downs themselves. I like the Infernal Grasp considering we don't know what we're really up against. Mehook seems kind of meh as well. I like the other Liliana, the Duress. They cut down on a Grasp. And we can play all three Bank Busters. It's a pretty grindy card. We have lots of discard. Kind of like the Hearse here because it's just such a hard card to deal with. Soul Transfers, I still like 2. And could play the Soul Transfer over the Infernal Grasp. I could see a world where that's probably right. That way we still have some removal. Maybe we play the Hearse even. Still a card. Still a threat. I don't necessarily like that we don't have instant speed answers, but we still have like 10 removal spells with the Lilianas, the Invokes, the Soul Transfers. I think that's pretty good. Mostly looking for a bit of an aggressive start, just like we had there, which is why getting like the Hearse and stuff in there is pretty good, because if our opponent's going to just play some instants, we're just going to put some cards in the graveyard, then the Hearse is going to be really useful. And it kind of just gets out of cut down range pretty quick in just a couple turns. Opponent's still on the sideboard here. And we're going to be on the draw again. Up against essentially what looks like Esper Control. Opponent's still taking a moment here. Let's go and see what they're up to. Definitely hoping for a good draw here. We actually got pretty lucky too, considering it kind of flooded out, but surprisingly this deck does have quite a bit to do with their mana every single turn. Opponent's still deciding what they want to do here. Probably just be on the play. It's pretty rare that they are on the draw. And still just waiting here to see what our opponent's up to. We're starting to wonder if our opponent's there. It did take them a while to sideboard. I don't believe that we went to time though. Okay, opponent is going to rope here. And it does not appear like our opponent's here. And yeah, it looks like our opponent didn't really want to either play the matchup or they had a connection disconnect. So get a free win there. We actually end up in platinum. So not bad. Let's go and see how the rest of our matches go. Grinding opponents of Dust here on the ladder with some Mono Black Midrange. Gonna be on the play. And I think our hand's actually pretty passable here. We don't necessarily want to mulligan. We have an early play, something pretty good in the late game, and potentially a card in between to help us survive if it really gets to that point. Or maybe in later in the game we just need to play it for 3 or 4 and essentially wipe the board. I do like the sleeper here if it survives. If not, then we're leaning pretty heavy on this Meathook Massacre. Opponent is taking a mulligan here. And let's go get the sleeper down. So best case scenario is our opponent just plays the tap land, doesn't really do anything. Okay, they got Kumanos, so it looks like they're an aggressive deck here. We hit Liliana the Veil, which is going to be really good next turn. Let's go and just uptick on this. Hit our opponent down to 18. Pass the turn back. So downtick on Liliana, looking pretty good. This Meathook is also very good against red deck. Okay, Phoenix Chick. Gonna come in as A 2/2 Flying Haste. Does the opponent have another 1-drop spell? We're not seeing it yet. Okay, there it is. Eater of Virtue. Pretty good card. We also hit a cut down here, so we could instead cut down and uptick on the sleeper. I think that's actually just a little bit better. But the Liliana play does get a lot worse. We could meat hook for 2 if they play 2 toughness creatures. And then the meat hook for 2 doesn't really look good if we Liliana and then have to essentially lose our evolved sleeper over it. I don't think that's worth it. So let's go ahead and make this a 3/3. It's also going to be a pretty good blocker. Besides having Death Touch, it can usually block most of their cards. I'll probably take some damage off the Kumanos here, though. Okay, Rabbit Battery. And they're going to equip. So we're going to go down to 12. Bit of damage here. We hit an Underdog. So we still have the Liliana. I think we're just going to meat hook for 2 here. It can actually come in for 3 damage. And let's meat hook for 2. Hoping to draw land here to hit this Invoke Despair, which would be really, really fantastic. We get to gain some life here, which feels pretty good, and we still have the sleeper down. Okay, another Phoenix Chick. And they're going to go ahead and put the Eater of Virtue on it. So we're just going to go down to 11 here. And we still have Lily of the Veil, which is going to gain us a point of life here. And we'll get our opponent down to 9. And pass the turn back. So looking for a land here for this Invoke Despair. But it looks like we have enough value to kind of just help close the game out. Meathook's just really good against any red deck. I really like the marches here. Path of Peril is actually looking pretty decent. I think we can play an extra one over the Celestis. Underdog is an okay blocker. So maybe we don't cut all of them. We do have to cut a card either way. Even though Sorn makes a life-linking creature, it does cost quite a bit of mana. And do we just want to get rid of potentially an Underdog or a sleeper for maybe the other Soul Transfer because it's just removal? Maybe the Liliana the Veil. I think this is pretty fine. I think it's pretty good. We're adding a little bit more removal and somewhat trimming down on the deck, so I think it's alright. We had a pretty good game 1 there against them. I mean, they're going to be really, really aggressive, so our Meehooks are going to be our most important card. Gonna take a mulligan here. Only 1 land. This hand is a lot better. I think we just put the Invoke back. So Lily of the Veil on the draw is a lot worse. We're going to use this Underdog defensively as well. Okay, Rabbit Battery. We're going to go down to 19. And we're mostly just looking for Meat Hook here. Okay, Bloodthirsty Adversary. So we're going to take 3 damage. And yep, still going to go down with the Underdog. So we didn't have any other cheap removal. Yeah, not really any other removal here. They could uptick and then maybe play with fire, which would be a bit devastating. We'll go down to 13, or excuse me, 12. And they can keep the damage going, and then our Lily Veil looks pretty rough. I think we're definitely trading here. And we can actually... Yeah, I think we downtick on this. Can also exile the Chandra. Maybe exiling the Chandra is better because they don't get cards. And if we really want Lily to be good later, we want our opponent to just have less cards. So we're almost just hoping for one of these to be a land. Okay, pretty good. Reckless Stormseeker. It's going to take some damage. So if we had used this, it would have just died to the Stormseeker. We get an underdog, which really isn't that great. Takanuma isn't really giving us many options here. Underdog puts us down to 9. I think we just have to do this now and still make them lose the rabbit battery. Could have made our opponent discard a card. I mean, they still would have had a dragon here. So we're going to take 7, go down to 4. Mostly looking for Meat Hook. That's pretty good. It keeps us in the game. So let's go ahead and get rid of the Hellkite. Can't really do anything else. Underdog's just not really that great right now. It's making us lose life. It's a really good blocker early, but as you can see, once the game gets to this point, it's pretty rough. Alright, going down to 2. We hit an Invoke Despair. I don't think that that's enough unless we hit a cut down. So, looking to hit a cut down here in 2 draws. Okay, Meat Hook and a land. So, yep. Just end up dying here. They had a pretty good start, and some of our cards just didn't really line up that well. I think we just throw it back. Lily of the Veil was okay. Path of Peril. Maybe we just cut Lily and play another Path of Peril. I guess the Soul Transfer. I guess it's like, it just ends up being the same. Yeah, it just ends up being the same. So we're going to be on the play here for game 3. Pretty risky hand. I don't think that we can keep it. Have quite a bit of interaction. Just looking to draw some lands. It's a pretty sketchy keep. Ooh, this is rough, but I think we actually have to keep this hand. I don't want to go down any more cards against red deck. We have an interaction spell early. Okay, Phoenix can take a few hits from that before it gets pretty serious. Drawing some lands here. So Invoke just looking alright as well. It's not looking the best. Opponent's going to come in for some damage. And they have an Ogre Head Helm. I think we can cut that down. And looking for any 3-drop in our deck here to kind of help curve out. We hit Shieldred, which will be good next turn. Especially into the Invoke. We'll get to potentially gain a lot more life. So we'll take a point of damage here. They have Chandra. Could also just use multiple burn spells to kill the Shieldred potentially. Okay. We have an Infernal Grasp, but still Shieldred here. Can't block the Phoenix, but not really too worried about that. Specifically, it's just a point of damage. If they have the Virtue, then they're using some of their mana in their turn to equip it. Okay, Raiju seems pretty good here. We can still block if they decide they want to attack with it. Okay, they're going to uptick, make a mana. Could burn the Shieldred post-combat. Okay, choosing the battery instead. We're going to take a point of damage here. We hit Sleeper. So I think we have to, let's see, 2 or more. Okay, it's 3 or more. So I think we just have to essentially make our opponent lose their Planeswalker, their Phoenix. We'll gain some life. Still no good attacks here. We'll pass it back. We have Infernal Grasp. Shield Dread's draining them of life. They attacked, then they drew a damage spell. We can take some damage now that we're gaining a couple of points of life a turn. 2 cards left from our opponent here. They could redraw off the Roadside Reliquary if they wanted to. Could also pump the Raiju, make it a 5/5. So we'll take its other creatures, right? Okay, it's just modified, so we just take 1. Other than, okay. Yeah, we can take the 5 here. Okay, Stormseeker, sure. It's a scary card, but we end up just hitting double removal spell here. So let's go and play Sleeper. Can actually attack. Okay, they're just going to take it. Yeah, let's play this. Pass turn back. That way we can uptick on the Sleeper and then Infernal Grasp the Reckless Stormseeker. Or potentially just kill the card that they want to give haste to. Okay, so they're going to kill the Shieldred. That's fine. Can't do anything about that. Okay, do they have a way of killing the Sleeper as well? Can make it a 3/3. Could also just spend their mana here on the Stormseeker. That's fine. And they'll pump it up. We'll just kill it. No play with fire so far. Pump this up. Draw a swamp. Definitely not the best draw. Think we can attack here. Try to draw something we can cast. Okay, just a land. We already played our land. Just had to pass it back. Kind of got all of our eggs in one basket as well here with this Sleeper. Okay, Chandra's pretty good. Can't kill our card, though. I can maybe uptick to look at the top. Yep. Ooh, a play with fire. So they can deal us some damage here. Yep, and they get a scry. Put it on the bottom. They still can't attack, though. We hit a soul transfer. So let's just soul transfer the rabbit battery and come in for lethal. Yep. Opponent didn't have anything there, so got another victory down with the mono black deck. Pizza people, are you enjoying the content? Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. It's free. Hit that bell icon as well. That way, anytime any of our new content comes out, you're able to see it right away. Hey, leave a comment down below as well. Tell us what you're going to play in the next event, or tell us what you're enjoying about the video. Don't forget, check out the description too. We've got tons of great content down below. And on top of that, we're going to have our tournament schedule too. So get in on it. Hope to see you. Ranking up on the ladder with Mono Black Midrange. Let's go ahead and see if we can keep it up. Alright, going to be on the play. And definitely a keepable hand here. A couple interactive spells and then a Graveyard Trespasser to essentially eat the cards that we may end up putting in the graveyard. And a Sorin to help top off the curve. Opponent leading off with the swap. And it looks like we could be on the mirror match here. So let's go ahead and get a Trespasser down. It survives a cut down and it'll at least get 2 cards out of our opponent's hand if they want to kill it. I think that we'll use the Sorin to make a token maybe? Could also Sleeper here and then just boost it all the way up. I think I like the Sorin. Let's uptick just in case they end up having a crew. We get a nice little redraw there. We get to hit for 4 damage. Pass the turn back. So yeah, even if they crew the Bankbuster, they can only really hit the Soren for 4. And they end up having their own Trespasser. And we have a Liliana the Veil, so that's just icing. They could also... They could sacrifice the Bankbuster here. But then that would also mean that they'd be tapped out for the turn, which I'm pretty happy with. Bankbuster gives them more cards. I feel like they'd rather... Are they going to cruise, still sack the Glutton? I could see that scenario as well. Okay, yep, so they're going to keep the Bankbuster here. Do we just uptick still on the Soren? I think we do. Revealing a land. We could attack and trade here. I don't think that I like that very much, though. Let's just play Sleeper. If we trade, we're just getting rid of a card, put them down to 15. They lose the Bankbuster. We're kind of at parity with cards. Essentially, it's us getting rid of 2 redraws. If we want to attack, the point of damage is nice. I think it's okay. I think that we can pass back. I don't think that we really want to trade right now. Let's say that they end up playing something that can't crew this, and we're still looking pretty good. Okay, they just have an Invoke Despair, so we're going to have to get rid of our Liliana here. And we get rid of Evolve Sleeper or the Trespasser. I think I like the Sleeper just because it doesn't require... Like, the Trespasser still requires 2 cards to get killed by a hard removal spell from our opponent. So I think I like that more. Let's uptick again on the Soren. Yep, just another land. Go ahead and attack here. Get rid of their Trespasser. Get them down to 12, and let's pass it back. We can ultimate Soren again. Essentially, this is actually 13 damage, so okay, yep. They're just going to get rid of all of our cards. It's fine. We still have a Soren going next turn, which feels pretty good. We also hit an Invoke Despair, which would be 6 damage, putting our opponent down to 6. I think I just like the Soren redraw here. Just try to get that going. Yep, we can take that. We'll get to play it. And, yep, we'll go ahead and do that as well. Get rid of a swamp here. Gain a life. Still have a mana open for a cut down if need be. Soren survives the Bankbuster attack. Okay, Underdog. And Trespasser. We can deal with both of those eventually. They could just redraw here, which would be fine as well. Question is, are they going to attack the Soren? Soren is still a threat here. I think they're just going to crew. Yep, seems pretty good. So they won't get a redraw. We will get an extra redraw ourselves. Because the Soren isn't dying. We get some redraws off the Invoke Despair. And we'll have, I believe, 4 mana left over. Or 3 mana, excuse me. Let's kill the Underdog. They can still crew the Bankbuster and sacrifice it to the Despair. Let's uptick on the Soren. I don't think that we want to reveal it. We can also draw off the Celestus if we really wanted to. I think we may end up doing that. We can just draw the Invoke now. I'd rather not lose the life. We're kind of starting to get a little bit attrition-y here. They still have Bank Buster. We know that they can underdog. They'll just get a redraw. Let's Celestis. Okay, more Invoke Despairs. So maybe just okay here. I mean, if they just play underdog, they'll lose in life. We have 2 Invoke Despairs that could potentially make our opponent lose a lot more life. Soren's going to die, but we're drawing quite a bit of cards. We know our opponent doesn't play counter spells. Okay, they just play another target essentially, so... Okay, yep, they'll only lose 2 now from this. We can cut down and make our opponent lose more life, actually. And I think that we do want to do this. Yep, go ahead and get rid of this. Get another redraw. We hit a Tenacious Underdog. Let's cut this down. Play a Swamp. 7, 8, 9. 5, 9, yep. Yeah, I actually think we have game here, don't we? Yeah, let's go and invoke. Yeah, that's actually just game, isn't it? So they just sacrifice the Soren, go down to 3. And then we can just attack them with the Tenacious Underdog. So it ended up working out. Celestis plus just all the extra land drops that we had there. So, looks like we're up against the mirror match. Gonna get grindy, and they were main deck and Bank Busters already. It's pretty good. What cards get worse here? I think Cut Down's fine. Me Hook's okay. Maybe not against their version. Let's play 1. Bring in Duresses, couple Pilfers. They can cut down on an underdog. Maybe a Celestis. I think I want the other Lily. Do we want all the Bank Busters? Can also cut down. Let me just cut down on a cut down. I mean, it's just okay. Felt kind of dead there a little bit. Celestis on a draw is usually pretty bad. The game, we know that the game's going to go long. We're not, I guess we're still trying to ramp to the invoke at some point, so maybe we just keep it. I don't know if we want all the meat hooks here. I think that's the only thing that I'm starting to question. We can also cut grass, or we just cut all those and then just play soul transfers instead. Still like Soren. We play a soul transfer and cut a meat hook. I really might regret not having the meat hook here. We have 6, 9, 9, and 4, so we have 13 removal spells. No cut downs. Kind of sketchy. Let's keep 1 in. Let's try something like this. I think I just want to have like some of a little bit of everything. Kind of keep the game grindy, but still have enough answers in our deck for most of the things that our opponent's going to throw at us. This hand is fine. We're on the draw. I think we can keep it. We have two lands. I think the only downside of this is that we're looking for this, but we do hit it now, so hitting our 3rd land feels really good because now we're able to play 2 other cards in our hand. And opponent's starting off yet again with the Bank Buster. And we have Underdog into Trespasser. Could also Pilfer here. Looks like they just have a cut down. Plus a redraw maybe off the Bank Buster. Lily Veil. Okay. And they can get rid of the Underdog. And we could Trespasser, but I think that this is just better. And then I want either my 5th land or I think another 2-drop so we can Pilfer plus something else. Looks like they're going to bank buster for a land here. They're definitely pointing to it. Okay, sleeper, sure. And maybe a draw. Okay, concealing curtains, pretty interesting card. We just have Sorin or Underdog. We could Trespasser. Most of this seems kind of meh. At least against what we're right now. Do we just want the Pilfer to maybe see what they could play? They're probably going to conceal and take the Invoke Despair. Sorin uptick and it dies, but we don't take damage. So kind of like some options that we have right now. Trespasser by itself just not really that impressive. Could Pilfer to see what they got going on. I mean, this costs most of their whole turn. They can't up on this, so we'd be taking potentially 5 damage down to 15. And then maybe we can invoke, but then they sack probably the curtains. I think I still like the redraw. I like the redraw on the life gain. Like the fact that it could take them a lot to it's gonna take their whole turn to kill the Sorin. So I'm okay with that. Obviously now is where we would want the meat hooks. Pilfer maybe a little bit late. Should have probably played it on turn 2. Hoping to get maybe some of their last cards, but and they're going to go ahead revealing Eye. Let's go see what else our opponent's up to here. Okay, so yep, they're going to take their whole turn to kill the Sorin. We hit Pilfer. Or excuse me, we hit a land so we can Pilfer and Graveyard Trespasser. Taking their Lily Veil. Let's Trespasser now. So they're going to get rid of our Tenacious Underdog. We could get rid of it now, considering... Yeah, let's just deal our opponent a point of damage. It seems like a bit of an awkward play, but our opponent's just going to do it themselves, so I think I'd rather get the extra point of damage. Just going to see what they're up to. So we can block, sleeper, make it a 4/4. Yeah, we're just going to have to take some damage here. I got a bit behind. We don't have any more board wipes. Yeah, now is definitely where we'd want them. Let's see. Okay, yep, just going to take a card. Okay, we hit another swamp, so... Play our own Trespasser. Just feels like we're a bit behind here. See, they got 3 cards. Just have Lily. Not really taking anything important. Let's just pass it back. Potentially use our Trespassers as a double block here. I think we're just too behind. Like, we're flooded out. We don't have any card advantage. Attack at Numa's like okay, but other than that, it just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't really feel like we have much going on right now. This is a game where a flood actually ended up hurting us because we don't really have much use of a lot of our mana here. So, yep, just going to offer the trade, take another 5. We'll probably play another Trespasser. If we hit Invoke, we have the chance to maybe draw on some good cards. It's looking like a game 3 type scenario, so we hit another Pilfer. Yeah, I think I still just want the me hooks over these. Just feels a little bit better, even though we got the Liliana. We got the Invoke too. I mean, we get to survive. It's not the worst. We're at 10. Yeah, let's pass it back. Okay, let's see what our opponent's up to. Three cards. They have the grass for the trespasser. They had to discard 2 cards. Or essentially they have to get rid of 2 cards to kill this. We're still just really behind. I think that's just lethal anyways from our opponent, so let's just not even waste any more time. Yeah, Mihawk still would have been better. I really like the Pilfers, but they just weren't as good as we wanted them to be. Might also want the cut downs again. At least one more. Yeah, I'll cut down. Let's actually just cut down on the sleeper for it. We have a lot of threats already. I think I'd rather just keep both Sorens because I know that Soren's going to be more card advantage later in the game. And we're going to be on the play. And we can keep this. I wasn't really sure about Pilfer. Like, it seems like it could be good in this matchup in the mirror, but just didn't really feel well suited there. Okay, no cut down early, but we do have some threats here. And I'm just going to go ahead and pump this up now. Pass the turn back. So we have Celestis into Shield Dread, even if we don't hit a land. Okay, opponent has their own sleeper, so we're still looking for a removal spell. But unfortunately, we did not hit one here. Just going to go ahead and attack with both, see how our opponent blocks, if they block. If they do, then we can just pump our sleeper out of range. Still want to play the Celestis here. If they use the curtains too, then we can kind of just kill their card. Yep, let's go and get some mana. We also get to pump up our other sleeper and then have a couple 3/3s with Death Touch on the following turn, which feels pretty good. I feel like they're probably going to Concealing Curtains here, get rid of our Shield Dread, which is a really solid clock and just a defensive piece. Let's see what they're up to here. 4 cards still in hand. Our sleepers are in cut down range, so opponent's actually just going to tap out. And let's see what they end up grabbing. I still think it's going to end up being the Shield Dread. I mean, Soren's a good pick too. Soren can end up drawing us lots of cards. Let's see what they end up taking here. Okay, so we just redraw into a land. And our opponent's not going to attack. Let's pump this up. I think that we still do this because of that reason specifically, in case we did end up getting flooded out. We can attack with both through theirs right now. Maybe uptick on the Soren. We can get Shield Dread back as well. I think I just want to attack with both here. Spend a good amount of mana on this Revealing Eye. I think I'm okay just trading. So we actually can just make it a 4/4. I think that's better, actually. Yeah, it just feels pretty good. And we hit an Infernal Grasp for their sleeper. So now one of our sleepers is at a cut down range, and we still have another one. So they could have Lily Veil plus removal, which would be a bit frustrating. If they have their own Shield Dread, we just have the Grasp here. We both have 4 cards. Okay, yep, they do have the Lily Veil, so we sacrifice the smaller sleeper. Yep. And there's no one removal spell for the sleeper here. They can't play a cut down. So now we actually can do quite a lot of things here. So we definitely want to play our swamp. Let's just Infernal Grasp the Evolve Sleeper. I think they do have a cut down because they have a stop. So then now they won't have a stop. Yep. So the main reason you know is because cut down can target their own cards, so the game's stopping for it. And then I think now we just play... We could play Sorin for cards. We could also play Graveyard Trespasser, which I think is the better play because it's more aggressive. So let's go and take both of their creature cards out of their graveyard, get them down to 13. And we now just have 2 really potent threats on the battlefield. Takenuma guarantees me a removal, a Shield Dread. 6, 7. I think we still do it. Yep. Let's get rid of the swamp. Even if we got rid of the Takenuma, it's not like the biggest loss. Like, it hurts a little bit, but it's not the worst thing that could happen. And they have an Invoke Despair, so I think we just get rid of the Graveyard Trespasser here. Even though it's obviously, our opponent's not getting rid of 2 cards, we're still okay with that. And we hit a Duress, which feels pretty good, so let's go ahead and just do that first before we do anything else. No cards that we can take. They have Junji and Graveyard Trespasser. I think we just Sorin uptick here. Yep, just going to reveal that. So unfortunately, we can't really do too much here. Going to get our opponent down to 9. Let's keep this just in case. And they hit a Trespasser that we knew about. So they'll go back up to 10. They can play another Trespasser. Yep. We have quite a bit of redraws here. So let's go into uptick on the Sorin. So we get through a land. Let's redraw off the sleeper. We hit Liliana the Veil, which is actually really good here. So let's make our opponent sacrifice one of their creatures. And we can come in for 5 here. We still get to play. We already played a land. Yep, pass it back. So we have only lands in our hand. Takenuma doesn't get any card back, essentially, that we want. We don't have the Shield Dread anymore. Okay, Lily Veil's pretty good on their side. So our Liliana's going to die. Yep, can't do anything about that. So they can kill our Liliana, and then we can Takenuma it back. Can also get a redraw off the Sorin. And we have cut down. So I think that we Takenuma. Ooh, Shieldred. Oh, Shieldred's pretty good. I think we have to take Liliana the Veils, even if we play Shieldred. It's not a guarantee, so I think we just take Lily. We play it. Down tick on it. Uptick on the Sorin. I'll go down to 10 over that. We get to exile their card next turn. Let's play one of the swamps. Yeah, one of the swamps is fine. We'll still have a swamp now and then maybe something else to discard later. So they have to find a way to deal damage to Sorin, and they cannot, so an ultimate Sorin pretty much takes it down for us. Alright, and as you can see, this is already one of the best decks in the format, at least in my opinion. So far, it just feels like we can't lose with the deck as long as you make the proper decisions, grind the game out. You have so much card advantage. Almost all of your cards are haymakers. This deck just feels great. I feel like I could just play this deck forever. It's, black has always been one of my favorite colors in Magic, so the fact that Mono Black is now one of the best decks in the format, for standard at least, it just feels really, really good. So, I mean, I definitely recommend this deck for the ladder. You're going to have a pretty simple time as long as you kind of think through all your decisions. I think for tournaments, so far, we haven't seen this deck actually perform that well, but I don't know if the proper deck list for tournaments has been made, considering that maybe because in tournaments you're playing against a lot more random things, it's it might be a little bit harder for the deck, but I mean, you're also doing that on the ladder, and it feels like this is still one of the best decks on the ladder. So overall, I mean, I think that you should definitely craft this deck. I normally don't advocate for that, but I think this deck's the real deal for sure. So definitely check out the link for the deck down below. You can check out my content as well in the description. Don't forget, we also host 3 free tournaments a month, and they do have cash prizes as well involved. This Sunday, we actually have an Explorer tournament, so definitely get in on that. And I hope that you stay cheesy.